Thank you for tuning in to the Happy Hearts podcast with your host, Becca. Rate and subscribe as we power you to live with love. Hi, welcome back and welcome to new people to the Happy Hearts podcast, powering you to live with love. Today I have Anomal, the Animal Kingdom, Josh, here with me to discuss the power of music and Solfeggio frequencies. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you for having me here, Becca. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. So would you like to tell everybody who you are and what exactly it is that you do?
Yeah, I will do my best. Hi, everybody. I am Josh. I go by Anomal. That's my music artist name. I am a musician and also kind of a messenger of the frequency that I use in all my music. And I make a plethora of genres of music, kind of go from anywhere from deeply ambient meditation music to extreme in-your-face drum and bass, as this last week showed. And I am, very passionate about music and also, like I said, the frequencies that go into the music and help set the environment for the music.
Yeah, and you do a really, really good job of it too.
Thank you.
So I want to start off today, Josh, if it's all right with you, I don't like to call it a meditation because it's really not, but it's just more like a recentering, just calming ourselves and getting connected with our hearts, which you're pretty much used to anyway. As you're the man of frequencies, if you'd like to put some 528 on, just to help us with that, I'd be appreciative.
I would love to. Very much.
Thank you.
Let me know how that volume is. Is that decent?
Yeah, that seems fine to me. Thank you. So if you want to close your eyes and put your hand over your heart, and we'll just take a few gentle breaths in and out. And we'll just really feel those frequencies connecting us right back to center, to our heart space. And let them fill us up with warmth and calm and peace for our podcast today. I want to just take that peace and let it radiate out through the airwaves, through our energy fields, and out to everybody who's listening and viewing today. Take a few last minute breaths. And we can open our eyes when we're ready. Thank you, Josh, so much. And as we have the frequency in the background, it's a perfect place to start and ask, Josh, what is this? What is playing now?
Well, this magical frequency, which I can turn on just a tiny little bit, is 528 hertz. And for those of you who haven't been introduced to 528 hertz yet, it is the frequency of our heart. And it sounds like a big statement, but there is a lot of science and math that go behind that statement. And it's also the frequency of chlorophyll, has the same geometrical structure as chlorophyll. So it on the color spectrum, it vibrates at green. So essentially, Mother Nature is vibrating love through the color of green in this frequency all throughout the botanical world. It also has the same geometrical structure as water. And when water is vibrated in crystalline structure of 528, it is basically like a superconductor. So going back to what Emmett was talking about yesterday in the Vibia Festival about how water has memory and water is such a powerful force. When water is supercharged with 528, it is in some of its most purified crystalline form, and that can bring us an immense amount of benefits and really help align our body in many different ways, as our body is pretty much basically water.
Yeah.
And 528 is also at the heart of the Solfeggio scale, which the Solfeggio scale are the primordial frequencies that our universe is kind of created on top of. Kind of a lot of things that 528
Yeah,
528
it's
does.
the miracle frequency, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yes.
and I'm not sure about our listeners, but for me, it brings just a sense of peace and happiness. Like as soon as I hear it come on, I feel instantly happy and calm. I could be anxious, I could be angry, I could be tired, and it just brings me back to center. And it really is miraculous, to be fair. What I wanted to touch on today is exactly that about solfeggio frequencies. Like, where do they come from? Like, what is the history behind that, and how does it connect to like how we listen to music today and how music affects us?
Yeah. I think I'll preface what I'm going to say by saying that a lot of the history on the solfeggio scale has been tarnished
Yes,
and hidden,
definitely.
and there, what people may refer to as legible sources or trustworthy sources, have nothing on the solfeggio scale, whereas other people like Dr. Horowitz, who has pretty much dedicated his life to specifically 528, but the solfeggio scale has been working on this since 1996, and he's found evidence of the solfeggio scale being directly coded into the Lord's Prayer in the Bible. It's also coded into St. John's hymn, St. John the Baptist's hymn, which is like one of the most spiritually uplifting songs that's ever been created.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually specifically to the tones of the solfeggio scale. So the history of the solfeggio really goes back to the creation of the universe,
Yes,
but has
it
been
is
so
everything, right?
very much so, yes.
Yes.
And it's just been very, very tarnished and very hidden. And I think we're going to see a lot of that shift as we come more out of the information era. But
And into,
essentially, I guess to explain a little bit more about kind of the depth of what the solfeggio scale is, because I said it syncs up with the Lord's Prayer.
mhm.
Essentially, what Yeshua, the man who walked as Jesus, tried to do with the Lord's Prayer. I'm sure there's plenty of things, but it also happens to line up in this way that the original one that has 7 lines, each line also lines up to a chakra point in our body. So it speaks to a specific solfeggio frequency. Our Father being the crown chakra, who art in heaven, the third eye, and it continues all the way down.
Mm.
There's a similar coding into the hymn that I was talking about in St. John Baptist. So there's a very important reason for it. And what Dr. Horowitz has kind of concluded as we move into this quantum realm of understanding, that the solfeggio scale is essentially the core frequencies that this quantum reality exists on top of. And if we look at ourselves, having seven chakras, as above, so below, essentially so could our creator. And what Dr. Horowitz is kind of pioneering and heralding is that the solfeggio frequencies are the energy center points of our creator's universal body, and also reflects down into us. And 528 being the heart of that kind of universal body, or universal, the term he uses is the standing gravitational wave of just reality. But it's some very quantum level
Yes.
thinking,
It can
and
get really deep, right?
very
And
very quickly.
technical.
Yeah,
But it leads us perfectly on to talking about Dr. Horowitz and his work and the book of 528. For anybody interested in finding out more, his book is actually available on Amazon, and other places, obviously, but Amazon is quite an easy place to find it. Um, but we can also listen to it read live by Anomal on his YouTube channel, the Anomal Kingdom. That's Anomal Kingdom. And I had the pleasure of listening to all of the live readings of that book, and it blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Can we just discuss a little bit about what that book entails, Josh?
yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for tuning into all of those live streams. I'm so appreciative that you were there and were experiencing that with me. That was
Yeah, it
such an
was the
amazing.
first thing that's how I found you.
Mm,
Solfeggio frequencies actually led me to you, Josh,
wow.
um, through TikTok. And then um, one of the first um, live streams that I was actually tuned into was you reading chapter 4
Mm,
of the book of 528. And I was like, gosh, I'm going to have to go back now and watch all the rest so I can catch up. And then it blossomed into the friendship that we have today. So
mm,
I'm very grateful. It's brought me the family that I was missing, the community that I was missing, and it brought me back to my heart, you know. So I have a lot to owe to Dr. Horowitz's work and the Solfeggio frequencies, because it took me on a whole new level of life. But yeah, let our readers find out about why it's so important and why his work is so like detrimental to the path that we're walking now.
yeah, very much so. I mean, he is a vital component to everything we're doing here, and I think I've already shared a couple, rather extraneous thoughts on this podcast. So if anybody was intrigued by what I'm saying, I would very much so direct you to the Book of 528, as that there is, you know, research and evidence, and multiple people who have gone into finding evidence for this, and testing the research that has been done, and that can all be found and resourced from the Book of 528 by Dr. Leonard G. Horowitz. Again, that's on Amazon. That's also available on Kindle if you'd like to hear the audiobook, or like Becca said, I read it, which was the biggest blessing, to that Dr. Horowitz allowed me to do that, and that it's expanded into the relationship that him and I have now. He's a part of our community, which is such a just like an unbelievable blessing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, this book is Dr. Horowitz. He's a Harvard graduate who studied in the work, or in the realm of kind of like pharmaceuticals, and he worked in the higher up companies, and ended up getting fired from one of the big companies that is now a main distributor of the vaccinations going around, and
Mhm.
that really spiraled him into this realm of seeking truth and seeking an alternative method of healing other than
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals and just what we've been given. And he is the leading author in the realm of the pharmaceutical industry. He's directed multiple films in that realm as well. He's
Yes.
also written a couple books on. He's written books on so many topics, and it was like every single book, every single documentary, every video, movie that he made, kind of like built him into creating this book, the Book of 528, and he put all of that knowledge together to, in his words, slam dunk love, so that
Yes.
it can be irrefutably, undeniably seen as truth in not just one way, but in so many different ways, in so many different industries, with math, science, quantum physics, religion, you name it,
Yeah, and he proves
backing
that
up
in his
this
book
concept.
because he had in the book he has interviewed and co-written with scientists, he's co-written with people that are meant are religious figures and different even other doctors. There's so many people like opening up to the realization that there's so much more healing coming from the vibrations of our earth and everything that we are and is in us, and love itself, connection, um, all of that is proving to be more healing than any kind of medication that's man-made today. And
Yeah,
he's
very
he's
much so.
proving that, and he's actually working towards like um, a court
I'd say a
hearing or
brighter
something.
future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's working now in the background as we speak to to improve that for us all. And um, I have so much respect for him and everything that he's doing, and for you for carrying his word and bringing it into music and into so many people's lives. You've blessed a lot of people, Josh. You know, um, you've touched my heart, you've touched my children's heart, and to be honest with you, Happy Hearts House wouldn't be a thing without the animal kingdom because that's where it started, and then cascaded into Vibrio, and now it's just going above and beyond, and it's all started from 528 from love. So just experiencing and finding this unconditional vibration that we can elevate ourselves to. It's so interesting, and it's amazing like the influence it can have on our relationship with music. Um, and that brings us on to the next subject that I wanted to talk about, like how have we been manipulated, through music, like to think and feel, uh, like in music today, like that's in the charts and stuff. How do you think that's affected our relationship with ourselves and our hearts and our emotions and stuff?
yeah. So that's a great transition. And I, again, for people who would like to fact check me on what I'm about to say, I would direct you to the Book of 528, as this is where the research has been pulled from. But essentially, there is currently a international standard for musical tuning that is in place for our world, and that was instituted. I don't think I'm going to get the date right, but somewhere around the latter parts of World War II,
Hmm.
and it was instituted by the Nazi Prime Minister Joseph Goebbels, and that institution was kind of like a pinnacle of 20 to 30 years of research that had been done by the United States Air Force and by the Navy, as well as RCA, so a recording company, kind of like the leaders in the radio technology as it was getting rolled out in World War One. And they spent a lot of time figuring out how to manipulate frequency and how to manipulate that frequency so it has a negative effect and a
Make
harmful
it into a
effect.
weapon,
Yeah,
basically.
weaponizing. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the the exact way that they weaponized frequencies,
Mm-hmm.
and that institution of A4 equals 440 hertz standard tuning for the ISO was kind of the pinnacle of that weaponizing of frequencies, and that has cascaded into pretty much every single song that we've heard since that time.
Mm-hmm.
A good 99.999% of music that we've heard is, sorry to say it, but out of tune with
Yes.
our universal body. And that was intentional and was researched to be intentional. And the reason that they chose 440 hertz is it is a specific frequency tone that only hits one solfeggio note in the scale, and that solfeggio frequency is 741. It actually hits like 740, but it's the closest frequency to that solfeggio note, so it tunes us the closest of our energy center up to our third eye and out of our heart because it's nowhere near 528. And I sound like it's coming direct from the TikTok video, but ironically, the relationship between 528 and 741 is called a tritone. And if anybody's studied music theory, that is the devil's tone or a devil's interval, and essentially is an extremely dissonant tone that is painful. Like it is painful to listen to. And back in the Baroque period, if you played that tone, you could be killed because of how
Mm-hmm.
dissonant it was or
Mm-hmm.
is. And so that's essentially how they have created this weaponizing of frequencies is by tuning us into our mind and pushing us out of our heart by creating this dissonance between our mind and our heart, and that the energy center of the music is more based up to our mind. It then pushes us up into our mind, making us easier to control for fear-based reality, anxiety, worry, herd mentality.
Yes, definitely herd mentality. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. Like I've seen it on the documentaries and stuff. How it's been used in protests to create violence so that they can, create fear
Yeah.
in the news and uh, yeah, the government to create fear in us all and to create hate and apartheid, basically. And it seems to be happening now, today, with certain things going on in the world. And it's saddening, but at the same time, um, we're making a change. There's so many people like making a difference, and it all still boils down to the frequencies because it's opening us up to the truth, and nobody is sitting down and taking it anymore and accepting it, and the fear is being lifted because we can see now that there's nothing to fear. And fear itself is excitement. It's leading us to possibilities unknown and into a brighter, better future. Um, and I think people tuning in to music that is rightly tuned will help to do that, to propel us further, because the more we work together, we can't really go wrong, can we?
Yeah.
Um,
I just had a good metaphor come into my head. The more in tune your instrument is, the better the orchestra sounds.
yes, yes, that's perfect. Yes, I love that. Um, so where can we find music, Josh, that's tuned to the right frequencies?
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's a part of my mission as well, is to create a more of a container for that type of stuff. Just to build off of what I was saying, to help explain to the listeners that kind of the difference between being out of tune and in tune with our
Mm-hmm.
universal body is the tuning that I was saying is dissonant, that is been tuning us into our mind, is A4 equals 440. And the
Mm-hmm.
music that brings us into our heart center and allows us to be harmonious with that is A4 equals 444. So it's just four frequencies above, but in doing that, it opens C5, which is just above A4, five notes, four notes, three notes. Oh my gosh! Then that's 528 hertz, and allows us to be harmonious with that energy. And that there's not a whole lot of homes for this type of music right now. I
Mm-hmm.
used to think that YouTube was a great place for this, but as I've talked about this more on TikTok, there's been people who have brought to my attention that YouTube can't necessarily be trusted, because there's been people who have been putting in different frequencies in the music that they've been putting in the title. I've also I've been kind of around the block with meditation streaming services, and I've been on
Mm-hmm.
Insight Timer. And they seem like a great kind of starting place, but they also have very corporate ideals and discipline me on their platform. So I wouldn't necessarily gear myself towards Insight Timer. But I think
Yeah.
an amazing place to go for 528 specific music, heart center specific music, is 528 Radio or 528records.com. And this is a service that was created by Dr. Horowitz
Yes.
to convert your 440 hertz music into 444, and then they upload it onto 528 radio, so you can stream radio services in different genres. And then they also give you back an MP3 of that, so you get the converted version in 444 of the song that you uploaded. So I think that that's a very powerful resource that we have now.
Yeah, that's
I think that will
awesome.
become a lot easier as we progress, whether that's in like phone apps or the Wave player, once Wave finally gets here.
Yes, I cannot wait for that. I'm so excited.
Yes. But yeah, as of now, 528 Records is kind of the home for most 528 musicians, just because it's run by Dr. Horowitz and he's the herald of this movement. But we really see that kind of, or I guess I see a world where we're not going to have to differentiate what frequency the music is tuned to. You'll be able
Hmm.
to choose that yourself as the listener, or choose that in a predetermined setting, instead of having to worry if something is in tune or out of tune, which just it doesn't make any sense. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would definitely say 528 Radio is the best place to go.
And also your Spotify.
Yes, yes. All the music I make is in 528.
And SoundCloud. He's on SoundCloud, he's on Spotify. His music can be found on YouTube, um, on his channel. I have left all the links down in the description for connecting with Josh and his music. There's also another artist that I enjoy called Andy Tulip. He's also known as Authentically Andrew on Instagram and TikTok. Um, he also tunes his music with the help of Josh. Um, and hopefully, I would hope that there will be other artists soon that follow lead, because this music has a whole nother level to it, guys. The feel of it, the way it makes you think, um, it just takes you to a whole nother level. And I'm so glad that I found it, because especially for um, my daughter Ava, that everybody knows in the community already. She has autism and dissociative identity disorder, and she um, struggles with a lot of trauma. And to bring this music to her, it's been like magic. It's been like medicine, basically. She's so much calmer. Even when she does have a sensory meltdown, or She does get angry. She's a lot easier to calm. She can come back to center a lot easier, and it's thanks to finding music like Josh's that has done that for her. And we're ever so grateful. Um, but for musicians that did want to jump on the bandwagon, Josh, what would your suggestions be for how do they tune the music? Is it the instrument itself, or do you do it through a software? I don't know.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on what the musician's approach is. Ideally, it would be to change the tuning of the instrument itself
Mhm.
before it is recorded or played. And as a singer, that's also a little different, as singers are kind of tuned into 440 because that's what we've been singing to. So for singers, that's a little bit difficult. Whenever I sing, I usually have 528 in the background to give me a reference. But if you are a digital musician and you use virtual instruments or samples in the virtual instrument settings, you should have the ability to change the tuning of it to from 440 to 444. If you don't have that ability, whether that's just because the VST doesn't have that ability, or you have an audio sample, whether that is a single music audio sample or it's the whole song itself, there's a general kind of frame of reference is that if you know the song or music sample you're listening to is tuned to 440, it's about 16 to 18 cents up. So you just micro tune it just a little bit up to bring it into alignment with 444. And that can be checked just with a simple tuner, whether that is an external tuner like a guitar tuner, or if you have a tuner inside of the software you're using, just tune the whole song up about 16 cents to 444. And that shouldn't really mess with the fidelity of the finished product. But if you really want the fullest experience of that music, fullest fidelity of that, because changing the pitch does induce just a little bit of artifacts or alias frequencies, then my recommendation is creating from scratch in 444, because then once you create from that space and are always creating from that space, then singing becomes easier. You're already in tune with that frequency, so you don't have to worry about tuning your voice, and it just becomes like a second nature, honestly. And that's where the real kind of the real magic comes from, is being in tune with this frequency and really just allowing whatever you feel to flow, and not having to worry about any type of tuning because it's already just happening. So I think that that'd be my recommendation to any musician, whether currently or in the future, if you're being inspired to pursue music. Just make that an intention that you want to tune your music to 444, and that is the bass frequency that you tune your music to. Because if you don't have to worry about it, that's going to allow for so much more creativity and literally miracles coming from 528.
And I agree, like solely because like I like to think that I'm not really an awful singer, but I've always struggled actually to sing in tune with music that's in the charts, which I found really strange because then starting to listen to like music tuned to 528 and 444 and this other Solfeggio frequencies, it doesn't seem to be as difficult. Like it just flows, and so I definitely recommend anybody out there wanting to make music or already creating their own music to take this on board. If anybody is wanting to check out what 528 music sounds like, the paradigm shift today is having a festival broadcast, and our lovely Animal is going to be headlining and DJing for that tonight. So So if you're free, that is at 8 p.m. EST, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about the festival, the events that have already been hosted for the last 4 days, the events that are going to be coming in the future. And if you're listening to this after March, you can still tune in because it's going to be on YouTube, on Skull Babylon's YouTube. And hopefully we can convince you that this is the right way. It's the way to love. So, and all we need is love. So, Josh, I just want to take this opportunity to express my gratitude for you coming on and having this discussion with me and giving us all this beautiful information that is literally changing lives. I'm just so thankful for you. I really am.
I'm so grateful for you too. Thank you so much for having me on here and allowing me to share this message. And this is my first podcast ever, so thank you for helping me get this out of the way.
Wow, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm doing a
first
lot
podcast today, first headline tonight. It's a pretty crazy day.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad that I could be that for you. I'm just so excited for things that are coming as well. Like we've got so much developing in the community, and we just welcome anybody is welcome to join. And if you feel like you resonate with anything that we spoke about today, please feel free to visit the Animal Kingdom on Discord, the Vibio Discord, the Paradigm Shift Discord. We're all one big community with our own little communities. Soon the Happy Hearts House Discord is going to be launching, and I will keep you guys updated as to when that will be. But yeah, I'm so grateful for each and every one of you out there, and I'm grateful for you, Josh, for coming on today and for everything that you've done for me and my daughters. Yes, honestly, we can never forget you, can we? Yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in, and until next time, live with love. I'm Becca, and I've been your host today on Happy Hearts Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Until then, live with love.